Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I'm Andrew Scaff. He's Mike Werman. He's a medieval historian. I'm a biochemist. Let's talk about sports. Mike, what's first topic for the day?
Yeah, great to be here as always, Dr. Scaff. Our first topic of conversation is about the Kansas City Royals and the Major League Baseball season. It's turned out that over the last few days, it's been revealed that four important Royals players have come down with positive COVID-19 tests. First, it was Sal Perez. Then a couple days later, it was revealed that Brad Keller and
Ryan O'Hearn.
Our starting first baseman, came out that now most recently. Our backup catcher, Cam Gallagher, has come down with COVID. Do you have any?
At least positive tests anyway. It
Positive
sounds
tests,
like
yeah.
no symptoms, or maybe like
so far. I think all four, but who knows what's gonna
right.
How long it's been in their system and when it's gonna, whether it will affect them or not, or whether it's going to now affect other players that they've been in contact with, or maybe they haven't.
Sal's positive test was before he reported.
Forward camp, I think.
And I think O'Hearn and Keller had positive tests like as they arrived.
Okay.
And Gallagher though was after he was in camp, so
that could signal that there might be a election coming.
Right. It's very possible anyway.
Because I don't know what the social distancing protocols were, whether they were being kind of quarantined as they arrived or things like that.
Or if the test had been taken like the day before and they just got the positive result.
Yeah, it's
that day. We don't know those things yet anyway. We don't know how fast the process is.
We don't really even know how accurate the COVID tests are exactly. There seems to be some false positives, but probably even more false negatives than there are false positives. So even some of the ones who have tested negative could have possibly come down with it. So it's one of those things where, again, these are young, healthy players, athletes. So, like the likelihood of them getting very sick is fairly low.
Right.
Even the likelihood of getting really, really sick with COVID is still fairly low, but
it's a non-zero.
Right? A non-zero number. So, and it does seem to affect some people for some reason more than others, even if they do seem healthy. So,
right. Well, yeah, underlying conditions can be known or not known though also. So frequently people don't know they have an underlying condition that could be important with this that, they didn't have any idea about.
Predisposition or something like that that's not known yet. And do you think this is going to have an effect on the start of the season? I haven't really heard numbers from other teams. I assume that other teams are maybe roughly in the same boat. Again, I haven't heard. There hasn't been like a story like the Dallas MLS team that basically everybody had.
Right.
And they had to drop out of the MLS tournament.
And their training staff and not just the players, right? But yeah.
So I think it must be at least the Royals either are average or above average, maybe in the number of cases, is what it seems like so far.
I mean, based on the city, at least anyway, Kansas City is not one of the big hot spots by any means. So the number of positive tests is a little surprising, I thought, at least anyway, from what we've seen.
Although I've read that Kansas City is one of the cities that seems like it is ready for a spike. Right now, that city seems to be Pittsburgh, where they're really getting a large number of cases in Western Pennsylvania. The numbers were low, especially compared to Philadelphia area and places like that. But recently, I think I read a New York Times article about Pittsburgh recently, and I've heard, I live 2 hours from Pittsburgh right now. But there's been a huge spike in the number of cases. They had like in mid-June or early June, they had reopened a lot of things and gone to green level of openings, and that seems to have caused this big spike in the last couple of weeks. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Pirates had some numbers, but I think I read that Kansas City, Cleveland, and Milwaukee were three cities that seemed similar in profile in terms of numbers and the dates that like Corona cases originally kind of spiked and came to those cities as possible Pittsburghs of the next couple of weeks. So you might want to watch out then.
Right. Well, the mayor has instituted like a mask policy for an indefinite time period now too. So it's not they've been rolling, a few weeks ahead saying, this is the policy until X date, and then we'll decide what's next after that point. Now they're just saying indefinitely.
Yeah.
And so like
Yeah.
I mean a lot of things are open here, but now these mask policies are becoming, I think, more accepted as they probably should have been from the very beginning.
It seems like they were, at least where I am. I'm in Western Maryland. A couple months ago, everybody was wearing masks. And then people were kind of getting, oh, it seems like it's going away. We're going to open up more things. And I'm also near the West Virginia border. And West Virginia is like the Wild West, or it was until like, I think a week ago, the West Virginia governor says we got to start wearing masks. But like people in West Virginia were just walking around maskless everywhere and kind of doing everything. And Pittsburgh, of course, is also very close to West Virginia. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's the West Virginians that brought COVID everywhere. We should close the border to West Virginia, I think. But
well, I mean, anyway, right? Not even.
I had some West Virginia guys sidle up to me in a convenience store. Everybody else was like obeying, wearing masks, obeying COVID restrictions. And this guy, he's like really like I'm in line, like 6 feet behind the next one. Then I go up, and then he like kind of gets up really close to me. He puts his stuff on the counter while I'm there. It was like it was West Virginia, of course. I looked at his license plate when he left. But, no mask, just oblivious to all of it. He wasn't like one of those people that seemed like vindictive about it, but he seemed really dumb about it. And that was the same time I came down with this like horrible strep throat and ear infection. So I assumed I had COVID, but apparently I don't. So at least not yet.
Just blame it on West Virginia, right?
I would blame it on West Virginia. Yeah. Much of
blame everything on West Virginia.
Much of this country's problems, I think, can be blamed on West Virginia. But
the epicenter of the country's problems, West Virginia. Yes.
Yeah. But anyway, I guess if I would say if it's this is not maybe troubling. We can think of it as a of course as a health thing for the Royals, but also as a baseball problem for the Royals because the top starting pitcher Brad Keller, starting first baseman Ryan O'Hearn, top two catchers are perhaps out for a while. Who knows? Maybe they'll be ready by the time the season starts. But
they will have missed out on these couple of weeks of training to get back into up to shape, right? So
does this mean the Royals need to sign a new catcher? Or
I think they still have guys on the roster like Valoria, and I think they have one other catcher on the roster too. So they had some playing time last year also. And I can't think of drawing a blank on the name, but Valoria I think is somebody they'd probably be happy with giving some extra time to, and he's shown he's capable at the major league level.
Yeah, he seems to be a kind of defensive catcher in the mold of Salvador Perez, but very young.
More of a doubles hitter than a home run hitter, at least anyway. But he's got some speed too for a catcher. I think he's worth getting a look at least anyway.
Yeah, I guess so. That, it's a good opportunity.
Especially if they know it's just going to be a shorter period of time, and not like last year where they knew Sal was out for the whole season, and they didn't want to roll with Gallagher and Valoria as the backups, so they ended up signing.
Right now on the 40-man roster, it's just Perez and Gallagher, according to MLB.com. So Valoria, that's a depth chart. Let's see the 40-man.
Yeah, that's on the 25. But
Valoria is on the 40-man roster. So
yeah. And this year they're doing a different roster set too. I think they have like a 60-man
and
rolling roster, but they can pull people from the 60-man onto the 40-man. But the people if they come off the 40-man, they have to go through the waivers process as they normally would with the 40-man roster. So, but they've designated additional players that they can bring onto the roster if they're 60-day DLs to get a waiver for the 40-man roster spot. So they can still bring people on. Those designations have already been made. And
so Valoria is the only one, I guess, the only non-positive COVID tested catcher on the 40-man roster.
So yeah, if they get to the first part of the season and they still don't have, a backup catcher that can go because of positive tests, then they would probably have to address that with another roster spot.
Yeah, he's 23 years old, Valoria, so young guy. I didn't realize Kevin Gallagher was. He's 27, so he's a little bit. He's still fairly. He's only 2 years younger than Sal Perez, who seems like he's been around forever. But
they're already talking about Duffy being the opening day starter now, I guess, for the Royals, and
okay,
as a possibility at least. I guess most of these players are still able to train while they're at home in isolation, I guess, right? But they're just not with the team. So, in theory, they can still be close to ready.
I think they
shouldn't get too out of shape in a couple of weeks if they're not with the team.
Yeah, after Keller, I think the Royals' rotation is fairly suspect. Junis, Duffy, I think, have had some success. Montgomery, Sparkman, I don't know, is Jorge Lopez still being considered as a starter? People like that.
It's hard to say.
A little bit. I think it's a little bit iffy. So he's I think by far the Royals, at least the last couple of years, been by far the most consistent starting pitcher. So that's a big loss if he is out for any particular time, especially such a short season.
As of now, I don't think this season's being threatened, but the next couple of weeks are really going to tell a lot.
Yeah.
If Gallagher being with the team while he tested positive, if that's
that's maybe the most. I think maybe that's the most.
Opens that door, right? So it's like, did he spread to other people, or did he get it from someone else that's there that hasn't tested positive yet? Or
especially if it's like if he gives it to one of the members of the training staff or the coaching staff who has contact maybe with a lot of the players, and I don't know exactly how they're doing things like that, or if somehow if Matheny or one of the older coaches caught it, that can be concerning.
Well, I don't think like is Rusty back with the
Rusty Kuntz, I think, has decided to take a leave of absence this year.
Okay, that's good.
Damon Hollins is going to be the first base coach. I saw an article about that a couple of weeks ago.
Because Mitch Meyer got reassigned to the minor league system, didn't he?
I think so, yeah. And
Rusty was coming back.
Rusty was due to come back because I guess he had those vision problems or headaches or something. I can't exactly remember what they were. I didn't go into a ton of detail about it, but he was ready to come back. But I think with this shortened season with the COVID scare, I think it's probably for the best that he's not going to.
Wisely deciding to take the season off. And no players from the Royals had decided to opt out of the season. Positive tests. Do you think that may have some players reconsidering opting out from the Royals?
I'm not sure. I think the Royals, most of the players are kind of in I can prove myself as a solid regular. That's what they're hoping to do this year. And I think if like an up and coming play, most of them are sort of, we would say, are kind of on the up and coming level or want to be considered that way, right?
Right.
So they can be playing for a future contract or something like that, and opting out this year would eliminate that possibility. If you're an established star, you might. So somebody maybe like Alex Gordon, but again, Gordon came back on another contract, so I don't think Gordon would sit out.
I saw like there was an article recently too about Gordon saying that with this early part of the season being canceled, that he's already gotten a taste for what it would have been like if he retired, and may have grounded him in wanting to continue to play than because he had the opportunity to see what it was like without actually having to retire and then making a decision to come back. So he kind of got that without having to actually go through that process. I thought it was at least an interesting, like, psychological.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because it's one of those things. Yeah, where some people I think may like the time off. Some of the people probably it drives them crazy. It probably depends on how much is sort of a workaholic you are, or how much your life is defined by your job. I'm not on the workaholic spectrum. I don't really think too deep. I'm not.
So if you had funds to not have to work, you just immediately stop working.
Probably, but if I played Major League Baseball, it's a little bit of a different type of job than I would say being a wealthy janitor or something like that. If I had money, my job was a janitor. I'm not going to do that. But having money, but then your job is something that's I would say very enjoyable, like being a baseball player.
Yeah.
That's a different kind of or if I were a famous actor or comedian or something like that, I would probably want to continue doing that.
I know in your field though, you probably tend to see elder statesmen sticking around forever,
Go
right?
on forever, and that's yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's some ways selfish and harmful for the field, but also it's something that I would do too, probably, if I were that person, because it's a good gig.
Right. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, that's always been what I've seen, ahead of me in like faculty positions and on the industry side of the sciences as well. So, personally, I don't know that I would retire even if I had unlimited funds drop in my lap right now. I'd probably just continue exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, it depends on what I mean by unlimited funds. I would, yeah. If I had several $1 million to sit on, I certainly wouldn't work. But if we're at maybe $1 million, then I would still, of course, probably need to, at least for a little while.
Would you change what you're doing to something else? Because it definitely give you some like short-term freedom.
Yes. If you could think you could always come back to doing what like the idea would be, well, if I could just step back into doing what I was doing before.
Yeah.
I could maybe, but like with baseball though, it's a short window that you have. It's a physical,
absolutely. Yeah.
It's like if I were if you were a famous actor or something, you could always get back into acting, even if they hadn't been offered a role for a couple of years, or if you were
probably won't be the same types of roles.
Again, being a professor or something like that, you maybe could take a year off, but then lots of times those jobs would be filled, or sometimes they say, well, we don't really need that job because we're cutting back and we don't want to pay anybody anyway.
We got a taste of what it's like without you here, and
you can hire an adjunct for $3,000 and no insurance. They can teach this class and then 2 or 3 others for the same thing. So
right.
That's just how things are going right now.
Yeah.
So it's it feels bad to know that you're replaceable, or at least you can be your job can be forgotten very easily. So I would say, especially if you're a young guy as a baseball player, you're going to keep playing. I think also, I don't know if this is something maybe different between American players and foreign-born players. I would guess that there would be a lot fewer foreign-born players that are would opt out of this season.
Yeah, of the players that I remember hearing that have opted out, I think they're all white Americans.
Yeah, the NBA I think has had a few people as well, but they're all American. I think American players. Although again, the NBA rosters make up, and their international players are primarily European, so first world economic countries, whereas Major League Baseball is primarily Latin America, which is fairly impoverished, at least compared to Anglo-America. So, opting out, that might not seem quite an option, especially as it seems anyway, at least most places, COVID has not hit those areas perhaps as hard as North America, Mexico, other parts, like Brazil is apparently hitting hard right now, but other than Paulo Orlando, we don't have too many Brazilian-born major leaguers. So
no, he's in the White Sox organization now.
He was. I don't know what's happened up to.
Is he not there anymore either? I don't know.
Well, let's look up.
He was the triple master though, right?
Paulo Triple O, yeah.
His first season. Well, because he had like some crazy number of triples, like in his right after he came up, right?
Yeah, Paulo Orlando is currently in the Mexican League. He's playing for the Tecolotes de los Dos Laredos. Oh, so it's Nuevo Laredo and Laredo, Arizona, or Laredo, Texas, Nuevo Laredo, Mexico.
You had to look that up. That wasn't right on the
sorry, the Tecolotes de los Dos Laredos. So it's the Tecolotes means the owls of the 2 Laredos. They were formerly the owls of Nuevo Laredo, which is the Mexican twin city across the Rio Grande, but then I guess they wanted to be more inclusive, be sort of the Minnesota Twins rather than being the Minneapolis Twins. They want or the
Right. It's ambiguous as to which of the
Nuevo
Twin cities they're in.
Now the Tecolotes de los dos Laredos.
Right. Like we actually know which city that the Minnesota Twins are located in, right? So
yes,
they just wanted to be more inclusive.
But they have those guys that are shaking hands across the river. They used to.
Right.
Those twins.
It's prominently displayed in the stadium too.
Although I don't see. There's Powerland. I was like, he's on the roster. A few other former major league players are, I think, on the team, but primarily, I think it looks like Orlando's probably the most successful of those players. And Orlando still is. He was fairly old, right, when he was when he was called up for the Royals a few years ago.
Yeah, he was like 27, 28, I think, when he first made it up.
He's 34 now.
He might have been 30 when he made it up then.
Yeah. Played for the Royals. It began in 2015, so 29 probably. Third Brazilian-born player in Major League Baseball history. His first Major League hit was a triple.
Nice.
And his first three hits were triples. Nice. So that was he hit his and then on April 20th, 2015, Orlando hit his fifth triple in his first 7 games, establishing a new Major League record for the fewest games to hit 5 triples to open a career. So we'll always have that.
That's pretty impressive, though, right? Like, how many triple do you think Billy Butler has 5 career triples?
I'm gonna say no.
I would guess no.
Do you think Billy Butler has 1 triple?
I would say yeah. I'd say he's 1. Be my guess. Maybe 2 max.
That's
because you get a lot of doubles.
Billy Butler has exactly 5 triples in his major league career. He hit 2 as a rookie for the Royals.
So we would have both.
We would have both been under. I was thinking maybe he had 1 or 2 tops.
That's what I would have guessed. Yeah.
I wonder how many consecutive series he hit triples. However,
that's right. 1, I guess you technically get 1, right? If you have 1 triple, right?
Yeah, he had 2. Well, he had 2 his rookie year, and then he hit 4 for the Royals, and then he hit 1 for the Oakland A's in 2015.
Oh. That ball must have gotten lost somewhere.
Got stuck in the between the pads and the wall or something, or maybe somebody stepped on it and twisted an ankle, and they had to, the left fielder had to run all the way over to center.
Yeah, it's got to be something like that. He was he seemed to have been slowing down in this final year with the Royals, so I can't imagine that he got much faster after that, though.
Yeah, country breakfast. He was as a young 21-year-old in 2007, he hit 2 triples.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah, good for Paolo. Good for Billy Butler. But yeah. Anyway, back to the Royals. I guess. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see. And July 24th is less than 2 weeks away now. So.
Right, and that seems to be about the length of time it takes to clear COVID.
Yeah, it seems like everybody's
more common
time for quarantine.
Average cases, I guess, right?
Yeah, I don't really know if that is from real data or just from kind of guesswork, and it seems like it works because it says it takes about 2 weeks for symptoms to occur once you've been tested. So.
Right. So it's it's just a big average though right now, right? And there weren't enough data points, I don't think, to really fill it out. So if they say 2 weeks, could be like 3 days plus or minus 12 days on either side of that, right? So there's not much on the negative side. So.
All right, Andrew. I guess our next topic of discussion is college football. We haven't really talked much about college football on here yet.
Your first time.
In the past couple of days, recently it's been announced that the Big Ten Conference, the 14-member Big Ten, has announced that they will forego all the non-conference games in their schedule and only play conference games this season. I think the Pac-12 has also followed suit. No word yet from the other major conferences. I think the Big 12 there's a comment by Joe Castiglione in the Big 12. I can't remember. He used to be the Oklahoma athletic director. Maybe he's the Big 12 commissioner now. He was taken aback by the Big Ten's decision. So I guess the question is, will the other conferences, maybe especially the most powerful of the football conferences, the SEC, follow suit? What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I mean, right now I think the SEC is just trying to delay to make a decision as to what they have to do, at least anyway. And I think they plan on wanting to play all the games that they can, and then, when they're forced to eventually have to make a decision, then they'll either follow suit or they'll break away and do their own thing, right? So
yeah, because I'm sure they don't want to, each of those games brings in a lot of revenue, not just for the SEC teams, but also, they play some, non-conference team that's, group of 5 team or lower. Those games bring in lots and lots of money for those lower ranked schools. If Southern Miss plays Ole Miss, or if Sam Houston State plays Texas A&M or something like that, they get hundreds of thousands of dollars just for showing up. And that's
the
enough.
SEC essentially pays them to get trounced, right?
Yeah, that's enough to run their athletic programs, and for a year basically.
Right.
And then you have also the Big Ten. I think some of the big non-conference games that were canceled were going to be canceled. Notre Dame was going to play Michigan. Notre Dame was going to play. They always play Michigan. They're going to play Wisconsin at Lambeau Field this year.
My alma mater's rivalry game would be canceled then, with Iowa State not playing Iowa then, right?
Yeah, that's a big deal to a lot of people.
And I think they played each other every year for maybe 100 years at this point now. I think somewhere in that area. So that would be a big thing to not have happen, at least anyway. But
yeah, and it seems
the times dictate that.
Again, a couple of weeks ago, everybody was a few weeks ago, everybody was so optimistic about things were going to start, but things are spiking again. But then, one of the questions is, where does that leave Notre Dame? Again, they're members sort of the ACC now, but they always usually play at least 4 or 5 Big Ten teams. It seems like they play Michigan every year.
I think there's an ACC SEC challenge. I think was something that was on the roster or on the schedule for this season too.
Okay, so maybe Notre Dame was going to be part of that. And yeah.
But eliminating non-conference games, though, really does change a lot, I think, for how you can rate teams against each other too, right? If you're trying to
you don't have, again, you think, the Big Ten seems strong this year, but lots of the reason that you think the Big Ten seems strong is because, Ohio State plays Oregon or something like that, and they trounce Oregon, and maybe they aren't the best team in the Big Ten, and you think, the Big Ten must be very good if compared to the Pac-12 or something like that. And we don't have those.
You can at least intuit a hierarchy between conferences, right?
Yeah.
If they play each other, I think somewhat, right?
Yeah. Now I think it's just going to be, we assume the SEC is the best, Big Ten's number 2, then maybe you have the ACC and Big 12 kind of fighting out for number 3 and 4. Then we think probably Pac-12 is number 5.
But you wouldn't be able to actually compare them until you get to the bowl season, and then you can see if they are able to have a bowl season too.
And we talk about conference games. Is it just going to be the normal conference schedule, or are they going to be able to play more conference games now because those non-conference games are gone and those dates are open? They were going to use the stadium on certain dates. Well, they can, can they expand the conference season? Because I guess the idea was, we can trust our own conference members to be on the ball when it comes to COVID testing and precautions and things like that. So why not play SEC? Why not play a 10 or 11 game?
Play a full 11 game schedule. Just add 3 teams from the other division into your current division. But I think the Big Ten's current plan is to just eliminate the non-conference schedule and
play 9 games, I think. Yeah.
And then just play the conference games that were on the schedule only, so they'd only be not 8 or 9 game season, I guess.
Yeah, and that seems again what is playing only 8 or 9 games going to be any more healthy than playing 10, 11, 12?
Right.
Especially when those teams are mixing up anyway.
Right. So then the fallback position then is if they go about saying that that's what they're going to do today. If they have to cut games from the schedule, they can cut the opposite division games from their schedule and only play teams from their own division, which would then cut it down to a 6-game season.
6-game schedule, yeah, 17 round robin in the Big Ten. Same thing. It would be the same for the SEC. The SEC has 14 teams if they did the same thing.
Right.
Although we've talked about, and then something to talk about, the SEC though, of course, is in a largely different geographical location than the Big Ten. Big Ten is in much more, primarily much more colder climate places. Michigan, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, places, Minnesota, places like that. Whereas the SEC, for example, if things seem like through the fall we're not going very well, the SEC could just say, well, let's just push our schedule back, and we'll start in the spring and play football beginning in January, beginning in February, and that would be something that they could do. Whereas wouldn't be quite as appealing probably from the Big Ten teams playing in the
February games in Michigan, northern Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I guess
probably not ideal.
If fans aren't going to be there anyway, so what does it matter? But
right, and they are open air stadiums though too.
Yeah,
not domes.
You think though that a lot of these players want to play because they need to audition for the NFL. They need experience playing. Coaches probably also are wanting, can they afford to take a whole year off?
Can the universities afford to pay their coaches the salaries they would get if they're getting no product for that too, right?
Yeah,
that has to be a big factor in it too. I mean, most state schools, the football coaches are the highest paid state employees in almost every state in the country.
Yeah. Sometimes it's once in a while it's a basketball coach, but and it's crazy. But then they're also the ones that make all again, if there's any athletic department whatsoever, it's the football team that makes all the money for those teams. Even compared to like men's basketball, some places women's basketball is a profit maker, but for the most part, football funds everything, and so all those other student athletes are left out in the cold. But
Well, I think that's why story from this last week anyway was Stanford canceled 11 sports from their varsity roster because of this. Whether it's being used as an excuse, the current environment, to cancel those sports, or they're doing it out of necessity, but they may have just been.
Stanford's one of those places that
their
endowments, several $1 billion easily. They could afford to float it for a while, but in all these universities are run like businesses now. They can't. They don't want to take a loss even temporarily, even if they know that things are going to be back to normal later. And it's a bit sad, but again, one of these things is also these universities should be more concerned with academics than with athletics.
So is this the time to go ahead and separate the NCAA college athletics from the universities?
I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. I think that's something that the SEC might want to try, especially because again, the football especially seems to be more separate from the NCAA than any of the other sports, with the BCS and then the bowl, the playoff system and things like that. It's not really NCAA run. It's those organizations, the selection committees that aren't part. It's not like the NCAA basketball tournament,
right?
NCAA. The football bowl, the big Power 5 conferences are kind of on their own, much more in football than they are even in basketball.
Right.
But I think one of the things, and we had talked about this before off the air, why doesn't the SEC want, again, they could easily spin off, and then that would probably bring the other conferences with it. But the SEC, for example, they could play football all year round. Why wouldn't they want to do that? They could play in the spring. The only thing that's keeping them from playing in the spring right now is tradition, because it's always been a fall sport. But why not? That would be something. Again, fans would love it. They have a fall football season, a spring football season, or a season that goes from one to the other.
Would you propose a super long season then, like a spring and a fall with the same players, or would they be different like JV, varsity
I don't
kind of
know.
things
I
where
don't
some
know.
players could play on both, but not necessarily have to?
I think that would be something that they could work out. Maybe have a maybe varsity in the fall, JV in the spring. But um, it's what they have those. A lot of those teams have huge spring practice games where it's the red team versus the white team or whatever, and
Right.
fills up their stadiums. And there's no reason other than we have, I guess, this idea supposedly that these kids are student athletes that are going to class, hitting the books and things like that. But from our experience and as teachers and college students, that's not the case.
Right.
Basketball runs for 6 months out of the year. They start practicing in October. They don't get done till March, April sometimes. Why can't football last from August to April or something like that?
With the heat and especially in the South in the summer, which is when the football team's going to start practicing, it might make sense anyway just to shift the season back by a few months.
Yeah.
Just for player safety during their preparation for the season start. It's like maybe the SEC season shouldn't actually even start until November.
Yeah. It's one of the these things. Football is it is a grueling sport in its way, but it's not. And it of course all the horrible injuries that happen, and we talking about chronic head injuries and things like that can happen. But physically, it's not as draining or demanding as a lot of sports that do last primarily year round. Even the NBA, the NBA.
There do tend to be a fair number of like dehydration related hospitalizations
in football.
In football, in the practice season
before summer practices, especially.
Right. But that's largely because of the temperature of the time of year when those practices are happening, though. Too.
Yeah, exactly. And just jerk coaches and things. But the NBA, like the basketball season lasts from the fall all the way through the spring into
right.
And they get summer off.
And they tend to have like a fall part where it's the non-conference schedule, and then the spring comes and that's the conference schedule, and then the late spring is the
tournament. Yeah, that's college basketball. Then the NBA, lasts longer than that. Soccer, the Premier League goes, essentially kind of the NBA length of schedule. The NHL goes, 9 months out of the year. Baseball goes about, they skip the winter, but 7 8 months out of the year. It's what those sports all last a very long time, and in a way, those sports are more. Again, they're not as violent physically, but they are more aerobic and grueling physically than football.
Right.
Again, they play a game a week. It's tough. It's awful, but but it's not. I don't think it compares really to the grind of a. Again, if they played more games, they would. Practices would be adjusted accordingly, and they want to last longer. Maybe they could take a month or two off in January and February, and then resume it in March or something like that. But I think that's an interesting idea. The only reason football's in the fall is because it's always been in the fall.
Right.
There's
historically there have been athletes that play multiple sports, and if they don't overlap by as much, then they can still have that flexibility.
It's true in high school, but it's not true really in
it used to be true in college also, but less so now than it's ever been.
Yeah, less so now. You have people that run track or something like that, but
right.
Tyreek Hill or whatever is going to be on the track team, or sometimes you have some baseball players in the spring.
Right.
But it's one of those things where, it's done because it's always been done that way. But in one case, while we have these huge stadiums that cost millions of dollars, they're only being used 7 or 8 times a year, maybe a couple concerts a year go in them. But that's why not make use of this big, huge edifice? And if they played 20 games of football a year, they'd Alabama, they'd sell out every game, whether it was in the fall or the spring.
However many games they put on, they would sell out that number of games, right?
Yeah, they could say, well, we have a shortened spring season, maybe 5 or 6 games in the spring. We have the normal fall. again, maybe a tryout season in the spring that's more than just what spring practice is. And again, I think the NCAA regulates all the practice and things like that. But if they broke away from the NCAA,
it wouldn't be bound to those rules anymore necessarily, right?
The NFL, of course, is one of the things about COVID is that they could, if things are bad in September, October, the NFL wasn't really thinking necessarily about shortening the season. They're just thinking about, well, let's just move it and push those games back into January and February and start
just displace those games, right?
Yeah,
and not push the whole thing back, but like whatever set of games are
we take the first 5 games,
take them in the same order, but they'll just be at the end of the season, right?
Yeah. I think
I mean that seems to make the most sense in a sport that's dominated by as much money as is involved in the NFL. So
you would think that, I guess one of the things would be that college basketball would be diminished in some ways by college football being still played in the spring, but
possibly. Usually football's mostly on the weekends, right? So college basketball they could space out around it, I think too, or they could split the day up, like football's in the morning and basketball's in the evening kind of thing, or whichever way they want to do it for ratings. But I mean, I think it seems like there are ways to make that work for TV scheduling too.
Yeah.
So I think with where we are right now, like if there's going to be a break with conferences and the NCAA, like this is the scenario for that break to happen, right?
Yeah, and just experiment with things and see how it works. I think I might as well try. And I'm a little surprised nobody's really. Maybe people have thought of it, I'm sure, but I'm surprised it hasn't gotten more traction.
Right.
Coaches like time off and things like that, and maybe players like time off too. But the reason that the time off is where the time off is just tradition, I think, more than any real practical concern. I don't really root against any NFL team. I realize that I'm from Kansas City, so I like the Chiefs. That's the only reason that I like the Chiefs. Again,
I do sort of root against the Broncos.
The Broncos, I see that, yeah. But
I used to root against the Raiders, but they have not been very good for a long time. So that's faded a lot for me, at least anyway. But
you also
definitely rooted against the Raiders or against the Broncos at every opportunity.
You root against the Broncos, but again, it's because of your local ties to Kansas City.
Yes.
But if you were born in Denver, you'd be a Denver fan, and
I'm sure
you aren't delusional enough to think that if I were from someplace else, I would have gravitated towards the Chiefs anyway because of their, because of the hunts or the degree that they have somehow, or those are the worst types of people that.
In some alternate universe, there was an Andrew born in Denver that is a Broncos fan.
Yeah, I'm
infinite universe theory.
That's one reason I don't understand, hyper nationalism and things like that either, because if I were born in Belgium, I'd love Belgium. Belgium is the #1 country on earth, but it's not. It's one of those things. I think as Americans we forget about. We think, everybody loves America as #1, but wherever you're from, that's what people like usually.
Yeah.
Especially sport rivalries, especially some people get off more on hating the other team more than they like their own team. I get that actually a lot around here because people, especially the Pittsburgh fans, are very anti. It seems like at least the ones I've encountered are as much anti-Ravens, anti-Eagles, anti-Browns types as they are pro Pittsburgh, or they think that anywhere
I thought anti-Patriots would be pretty high on that.
Anti-Patriots is also high, or that anywhere they would be, they think, we would be Pittsburgh fans no matter what, because there's something about that black and gold that
they would gravitate towards no matter what.
Yeah,
they would always find their way home somehow.
Which seems odd, but I don't think that's true. Again, you're from Pittsburgh. That's why you like Pittsburgh, and that's really the only reason.
Yeah, the NBA was different for me anyway.
Because we didn't have a team. If you have a local team.
So the teams that I have liked the most has gravitated towards players that I've liked. So I tend to like the team that the best player, or the player that I like the most plays for.
I was
around a lot as to who
I was a Kings fan when we were young, because the Kings played, of course, in Kansas City. Did you ever go to Kings?
I don't even remember the Kings playing here.
I went to a lot of Kings games. I remember I actually went onto the court one time, and I was like 4, and if you could shoot a free throw at halftime and make it, you get a prize or whatever. And
Nice.
apparently I insisted, because I was like little, so they were going to move me up close or like help me. I insisted on standing at the real line and trying, and I just failed miserably. But I think like cheerleaders lifted me up on their shoulders and things like that. I don't really remember all that, but I remember trying to shoot the free throw and not doing so well. But that was when
your life immensely, I'm sure, right?
that was at Kemper Arena. They got like 4,000 fans. That was when the Comets outdrew the Kings by a large measure. The former Major Indoor Soccer League Comets
Right.
sell out Kemper regularly in the mid to late 80s. And then so the Kings
probably why the Kings didn't last long in Kansas City.
Yeah, after the 80, I think it was 85 season, 84-85 season or 85-86 season, they moved to Sacramento. So I still followed the Kings a little bit in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have an NBA team. Like you, I kind of gravitated towards players.
Yeah.
Charles Barkley a lot. I didn't care for Jordan as much. I liked the Lakers as well.
I was Lakers, Magic Johnson in the 80s, and Jordan in the 90s, the Bulls, Shaq in Orlando when he was there, and then with the Lakers again. And
I was an Allen Iverson fan.
I liked Iverson
in the late 90s, 2000s.
I never liked the team that much, though. I liked Iverson, though.
Yeah, I wanted the 76ers.
So fun to watch Iverson play.
Iverson was my favorite player, probably in the 90s and early 2000s. Just a little guy who was fearless and could, great on the dribble, great shooter. He was my favorite, probably. And and of course his practice rant was great. Practice, man.
Great.
I liked him. Yeah. But
post Iverson, then what was next?
After Iverson, my favorite? Hard to say. I kind of, it depended. I liked Karl Malone. I didn't care for John Stockton though.
I liked not Stockton, but Hornacek, because he was an Iowa
State player. Yeah. I kind of liked. Sometimes I had a kind of love-hate relationship with the Knicks. I like them sometimes, but I also didn't like how they kind of really slowed the game down and kind of just made it kind of a rough game.
I generally like the Knicks' ineptness, and that I always thought that was funny. But I don't know, I like the Knicks, but I like watching them struggle for some reason.
I admired, as Jordan's career came to an end, I admired what he did. I was never a fan of Jordan.
Yeah.
He didn't have a personality that again, he is a big jerk, and if he were in any other profession, he would be a sociopath. But it drove him enough to become a great NBA player. But if when he golfs, he loses millions of dollars. He's addicted to gambling and things like that. So he's not a great role model in a lot of ways, but he is very tenacious, and that can be something good. So I was, players. The NBA. I followed college basketball a little bit more than the NBA.
Right.
I could have a team when I went to Arkansas or something like that. I would follow. Sure. Joe Johnson was a favorite player of mine because he lived in my dorm. One year. So, Gennaro Pargo lived 2 doors down from me. Former Laker reserve and Bulls reserve, Gennaro Pargo. So he won a couple of championships. But so I don't know. Yeah, back to the again. If I can see if you aren't living in an NFL city, you would pick a team. But if you lived in a city that had a team and you picked some other team, that I think also shows some sort of psychological issue that you have.
Right.
Either you're a front runner, and nobody likes a front runner, or maybe it's because your family's from a different place. But like, you remember LeBron James, grew up near Cleveland, and he was a Yankees fan.
That is weird.
That strikes me as, again, or those people that go to the Royals, people from like rural Kansas or someplace that go to the Royals to see them play the Yankees and root for the Yankees.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Those people are some of the worst people on earth.
For sure.
At least for sports fans, I wouldn't trust them.
I do think people that root for college basketball teams didn't go to the college. are weird also.
Well, yeah, if it's a local area, like, KU fans, like they live in Kansas at least, or as a kid, you just kind of like whatever. But yeah, I think it's a little bit strange. I think professional teams, though, is very odd to root for the teams that are not in your area if you have no tie to that particular area. Yeah, it's like I'm gonna root for the Twins because
For no reason.
I hate my city and I hate all the people in Kansas City that root for the Royals, and then so I'm gonna root for the Twins.
Great.
If I weren't a Chiefs fan, I could see myself rooting for the Raiders or something like that because they have a kind of perverse kind of attitude, and they're sort of a villain. Like the Patriots they're a bit of a villain.
They embrace the villain.
I like it, yeah, and I kind of like that as a Ric Flair kind of.
Yeah, it's the pro wrestling heel.
Yeah, the heel. Yeah, I'd rather root for a heel than a face usually. When I was a kid, I rooted for the faces, but as an adult, I've become.
But then you became an adult.
I root for the heels.
Right.
I like to see chaos, and I guess maybe that's
That's what I tend to root for, like in college football, is for like the BCS to just be a mess.
It'll be a mess. So you want each team, every champ, like you want the 3-loss team from the SEC East to somehow beat.
No, I want the nobody school to like knock out the big conference people that shouldn't be in there anyway. Like I want chaos in the beat. I want like 3 undefeated.
So you want Boise State to
sniff the finals, right? Just because they're a smaller school or something, right? Like those years that what was it, like UCF made it like had the undefeated season, and maybe they should have been in that college football playoff and didn't make it, but
maybe 18. I can think maybe
that kind of chaos. And I think most of the time, if there's like a 1-loss, if there's a 2-loss like SEC or Big Ten school, they should be out immediately, no question. Just they're not even considered.
I usually
because it biases the conferences so heavily towards those big conferences.
I only want the blue bloods in the BCS. I don't want a Cinderella team in the top 4.
I want all Cinderellas if it's possible.
I want it to be undefeated. I want there to be an undefeated SEC team, undefeated Big Ten team, undefeated ACC, undefeated Big 12.
If it was each of the Big 5 conferences had a 1-loss team, I would want undefeated teams from like the MAC.
Ooh, no, not me.
AAC.
Maybe in college basketball. In college football, I want to see the good teams play. In college basketball, it's kind for a little chaos. I wanted to see Alabama against Clemson, or I want to see Oklahoma against Ohio State, or something like that. That's what I usually want.
Already seen it. Tired of that. Let's mix it up.
Okay.
Wow. This is his last year of his cheap salary anyway, right, for the team?
Yeah,
so.
He's on his fifth year deal.
4th year of his 5 years.
He's like 4th year right now. Next year he's on his 5th year. So he'll make like $25 million next year.
2021 season.
2021, yeah, I'll make 2021 like $25 million, and then he's gonna make the 40 plus.
Yeah, because the 2020 season he's only gonna make like $3 million or something.
Yeah.
Plus whatever
signing
bonuses from the signing contract, essentially.
Yeah. And they're sort of guaranteeing his salary 2 years from now, and there's some sort of contingency plan that the contract had. I was reading about, but
I said if he got hurt today, he'd still get 140.
140, yeah.
Which is not bad.
That's not bad.
I'd take it personally. I mean,
it's not 500. So would you just get injured and not? If you had to go through the rigors of an NFL season for get beaten up by a big
possibly repeatedly injured. I mean, do I get to pick the injury, or is it like
you're just on the field and you just get smashed by defensive linemen and? Would you be on
to stand there and get run over?
Who you are again? You might be able to complete a few passes as an NFL quarterback with the Chiefs' offensive scheme. But
my assumption is I'm definitely going to get hurt.
Yeah, you're going to get smashed. So would I
take the 140 injury to say I'm done
and take $140 million, or would you try to gut it out as long as possible to possibly make $400 million plus.
Do I get the 140 either way? Or do I
Yeah.
not get the 140 if I try to go for it? I have to play the entire contract to get the 140.
I wouldn't make you do that. I don't think they'd let you play the entire contract. What would you do?
I think I would try it.
Yeah,
I wouldn't just take the injury in the
just
one.
test your limits, even though you know you're gonna get like. So the injury would be, you would just say, "Oh, I'm claiming." You wouldn't have to get hurt to claim the 140. You could just claim to be injured and fail your physical. You know,
Right. But I think if you fail a physical, I think the contracts usually get voided, don't they? Aren't they?
Well, if you get injured, you'd fail the physical. So I think.
Well, sure. I mean, you wouldn't be able to play.
So assuming that the contract was considered to be valid,
Right. Right.
would you take the injury clause at the beginning and just take 140?
I think
Or would you?
I think it's funnier if you have to be injured, though, right?
Or would you subject to repeated beatings? Not that you don't have to be injured to take the 140.
Yeah, because I would think that the like you're gonna get injured either way, right? So you may as well try it and see how you do.
I would say you do, okay. I'll offer this much: you do not have to be injured to take
Yeah.
the 140.
Well, and I just
You
take
just have
the
to.
140.
You can just
Yeah.
bow out gracefully.
Yeah.
You would take the 140. You wouldn't try to see. You wouldn't just want to be curious to see how well you would do.
That's why I was pushing for that, and then you talked me out of it, though. With the no, because of the no injury at all thing. Because you're always going to take the no injury and the money, right? I mean,
no injury plus 140, or possible catastrophic injuries, and 400.
Well, I think you have to have some kind of threat for your safety to just take the 140 and not play at all, right?
Yeah.
So it's like you just have to stand at the middle of the field and somebody's going to just truck you, basically, right? And then you get paid $140 million.
No, but I think if you get 140 million, you can just fall down the stairs in your apartment or something, and that would be.
You have to know it's coming, though. That's what makes it the true test, right?
Yeah. So I don't want. So if you know you're going to get hurt at some point, of course you play it out. But
right.
if let's say
you play it as long as you could.
Would you try to play NFL football knowing that you would probably maybe you wouldn't get hurt, maybe you just get tackled so many times it wouldn't matter,
right?
Because you're not making an athletic move enough. They just tackle you and you're wearing enough protection.
I would just crumple, I think, anyway. Right?
Yeah, maybe you just crumple, or maybe you take a knee every time. And
yeah, I mean, if it's just all I have to do is hold a clipboard, and if two other guys get hurt,
then decide then
you might be in a game, right?
And then they were going to have to bench you as their, but you'd also get taunts and boos from everybody.
You were definitely going to get booed every chance.
Or you might not get booed if you just take the money and run.
Right. But I don't know that you could stay here.
And you would damage the Chiefs' long-term chances of being a good
team. It's terrible.
By staying on. I think I'd just take the money, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I would
That's still hurting the team by taking money out of the franchise, right?
You're only taking 140 million.
Only, yes. Yeah.
And it's an injury settlement, so it's probably not counted against the cap in the same way as the other times.
Probably.
But it would also be kind of interesting just to, you'd probably be kind of curious just to see how poorly or how well you might.
Absolutely.
As a quarterback, catching it and maybe you could complete a couple of passes.
Yeah.
And just get not get terribly hurt.
As long as the line, your offensive line doesn't hate you.
Well, they might.
If you can convince them to at least give you 2 seconds, the least thing you can do is throw it away, right?
Throw it away.
Or take it.
Maybe you could run into the line and just kind of get knocked around and fall down.
You just can't take the risk of injuring one of your linemen now because of your own ineptness, right?
And that might happen. I would, So would you take your snaps in the shotgun probably just to avoid?
Yeah, I'd probably fall over myself.
Backing up too much. But you also might just be able to hand off to get everybody to expect a handoff. So maybe you could initiate some sort of end-around play. That would be
there'll be fake handoffs and pitches and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and you'd be able to practice, so you'd probably get a little bit good at doing a pitch or something.
I definitely want to take the shot. It's not going to go well for the team.
Would you last a quarter in an NFL?
You're saying you get trained. You go through all the training. Yeah, I mean, it's not going to go well.
But do you think you can make it out without an injury through one quarter, or would you be just nailed and then just out of it?
I'll say yes if the defense is on the field for most of that quarter.
Well, it probably will be most of the time because you'll go 3 and out, and
Right. So you might only have to play like 3 plays, right?
or maybe there'd be a lot of direct snaps to the wildcat kind of
Yeah.
formations, and you could probably skate your way through for a few.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I might have a slightly better chance than regular average guy just because of my size. But
Yeah, you're a big guy. Yeah, I'm not too small. I'm not terribly small either. So I wouldn't look that unusual probably if I had pads on.
Yeah.
Field. Maybe they'd be able to from a distance I would look like I could fit in.
Yeah.
From up close they would see how unchiseled and flabby I am, but it could be maybe a punter almost, or I don't have the flexibility or ability.
I always like to say that I'm close to the size of Ben Roethlisberger, pretty within a few pounds and an inch or something in height.
Yeah.
But I don't have as much muscle as a pro player would have, so most of that weight is not muscle for me. So.
If I could kick it, I could be a Sebastian Janikowski type almost, but
maybe in not in what was the test? The Wonderlic test.
Wonderlic test. What do you get? Like a 5? What was it?
So it was a single-digit number for sure.
9, I think, when it was Janikowski. All right, Andrew. That's enough for today. Hit the showers. You'll need it after your $140 million contract gets signed.
And injuries to go along with it. Guaranteed.
Guaranteed injury. Yeah, the guaranteed. I think the guaranteed injury is pretty funny.
Not the guaranteed salary, the guaranteed injury.
You might do a non-football related. I don't know. You walk in front of a car or something and just who knows. But okay, maybe we can start over this.
I think it has to happen on the field in some way. Okay. Right, even if it's like a practice squad sort of.
Maybe it would be people throwing things at you because you were such a horrible quarterback. D-cell batteries or something.
Very well could be.
Knocked unconscious.
It's pretty possible.
That would be the worst, though. I wouldn't want a head injury. Definitely.
No. I mean, yeah. Hopefully, you're wearing the helmet.
Yeah. But maybe
I just kind of picture it as like it's at night. The stadium lights are on. You're like I would be standing like at the 50-yard line with the football, and somebody's just like full speed like crashes into you or something, right? And that's like
you're gonna be nailed from the blind side probably, and just
you're expecting the one head on, and it actually comes from the side, and you have no idea. Yeah. But if it's that kind of money, that's gonna have to be that kind of scenario, right?
Yeah. I would hope for just an ankle sprain.
Right. But it'd be like something silly.
The injury cart runs over your foot. I can't play anymore, guys.
Drop the clipboard.
Yeah,
small cut on your toe or something, right?
Yeah. A Gatorade bath that goes for hypothermia. I can't start.
It's gonna be one of those.
One of those. Well, anyway, let's. I don't think that's going to happen to either of us, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because I don't want to see either of us get hurt. But that is all the time we have for today, Dr. Scaff. I will see you in our next installment, and we'll go over some more exciting topics in the world of sports, and hopefully, maybe we'll have a little bit more clarity on whether, what the seasons are going to be like this summer, in the fall within the next week. So with that, I will bid you adieu. You are, as always, Dr. Andrew Scaff, Dr. Michael Werman, and we will see you on the next installment of the Warning Track Power Hour. Please feel free to like and or subscribe to our silly little channel here. So good day. Is that good? Is that pretty good? Yeah.
Nailed it.
Do you want another one? Okay, nail it.
No,
yeah.
it's
Nail it. It's fine.